this arena rocked to Bruce Springsteen. Tonight, it's rock and roll racing as the United States Hot Rod Association presents Mud Bog Drag Racing Championships and Battle of the Monster Trucks. Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Huffman. With me, Margot King from Worcester, Massachusetts.
No, Larry, it's Worcester.
Worcester, Massachusetts. We've got Mud Bog Drag Racing Championship and also the Monster Trucks and a little different format tonight.
It's called Monster Truck Freestyle Car Crushing, and the audience will decide who's the best at it.
And an almost sellout crowd here, and the people of New England are ready for the racing. Right here from Worcester, Massachusetts.
No, Larry, it's Worcester, Massachusetts.
My goodness. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away.
We're having a party. This weekend, save 50% or more on bowling. And enter our Bowling in the USA sweepstakes. Win award-winning Jeep Cherokees named 4x4 of the year again. Trips to the Showboat Hotel and Casino. Over 70,000 prizes. Bowling, bowling, bowling in the USA. We're back bowling, bowling, bowling in the USA.
A special feature's coming your way from Domino's Pizza to ruin the North Day. It's a really big show, so don't be late. 2 regular cheese pizzas for just $8.88. Pay a bit more for toppings. It's all hot and fresh, 'cause it's at your door in 30 minutes or less. Hurry, this won't last forever. Savings like these may be now or never. Domino's Pizza delivers savings.
Some guys, they have it all. Some guys are just too big. Some guys, they have a fall. Some guys get left out in the rain.
Don't wait for something good to happen. Make it happen with the clean, masculine scent of English leather cologne.
Some guys have what others want. Some guys have it all.
English leather. Some guys have it all.
Well, we got a capacity crowd here on hand at the Centrum in Worcester. We're sandwiched in between the first and second concerts of Bruce Springsteen. He's starting his world tour, and he was here last night, and it was sold out. We're here tonight. He comes back tomorrow night.
Hard to envision screaming rock and roll fans on the floor of the stadium.
Coming up next, this is Ken Bloom. The machine is sowing wild oats. He's out of Colchester, Connecticut. It's a 1988 custom Jeep funny car, fiberglass body, with a small block Chevy engine, 355 cubic inch, but he's putting out 650 horsepower, running on nitrous oxide and alcohol. Ken Bloom, he is ready to go. The crowd leans forward. He comes up to stage. There's a flag man on the right. That green flag will go up, and he will launch himself off the line. If you're into Jeeps, this is a very, very fast Jeep funny car.
These drivers like to get those first few numbers because that means that launching pad's a little drier, not so wet and slippery, and they have more of a chance to get through that pin.
He launches, goes all the way through it. No problem. Gets over the hump at the end. Unlike Night Flight, he makes it all the way through. Sowing wild oats, a Jeep funny car. Nitrous oxide. They say when he hits that throttle and kicks into nitrous oxide, it's just like getting a kick in the seat of the pants. Launches it instantly.
The use of that nitrous just shows you how sophisticated this sport has gotten.
Okay, he's got to be it's 2.45 seconds. By 1/100th of a second, he loses to Night Flight, and that is awfully close competition. Don't get much closer than that.
That's right. They're splitting hairs.
A 2.45 being beat by a 2.44. And here's Calamity Jane out of Augusta, Michigan. Dick Sinden, it's a 32 Ford body. Looks like a funny car, Margot.
With a 440 power plant underneath the hood, we don't see that many Ford engines on the track.
That's true, and you don't see many 32 Fords around either. Okay, he's got to beat a 2.44. Rockets through, makes it all the way, and a little bit of a surprise there at the end, slamming into that mount. I guess it's a safety mount, Margo, and it slows him down rapidly.
That's right. It looked like a sluggish run for him now. I don't know if we're going to see him as a top contender tonight.
Yeah, he's got to beat a 2.44 second run by Night Flight. Let's take a look back in slow motion. Green flag drops. Margo, a good launch.
Decent launch, but just not getting that firing excitement charge through the pit.
Yep, a 2.54 second run for Calamity Jane, and that's 1/10 of a second exactly slower than Night Flight. So tough break. This is Black Bart. Coming up now, Pete Barikas of Quincy, Massachusetts. It's an 88 D&G chassis, 500 cubic inch Chevy, running nitrous oxide and producing 1,000 horsepower, currently second. in the U.S. Hot Rod Association Mud Bog Point Series.
And if this car runs to his potential, he will set a great time. Check out those carbon fiber wheels he has on the rear of that machine.
Well, those are yellow carbon fiber wheels. They're much lighter, and they're normally used for all wheels. He's opted to use them just for the rear wheels. Okay, he's got to beat a 2.44. Let's see what he can do. There's a launch. All the way through, and he is as smooth as a mayonnaise sandwich, Margot. No problems at all.
A beautiful run. I think he'll be pleased with his time.
Let's see. He's got to beat a 2.44. He launched no mistakes, no problems at all, and Black Bart is through the traps.
And you can see the safety equipment he's wearing, those harnesses. He even is wearing a fire suit. God forbid he'd need that.
Well, it's a good idea to wear it. They can sometimes go on their head. That's the reason for the roll cage. On 2.24 seconds for Black Bart. Baricus just set the fastest time of the night. Whoa, and spews up the mud, let me tell you. We'll be back to the Worcester with more mud. Don't go away.
Watch out. The wildest show on wheels is about to roar into your living room. It's the ultimate home video. Blood, sweat, and gears. Bigfoot takes on the toughest full-blown competition ever before facing his greatest test when Sergeant Slaughter and his battle battalion challenge Bigfoot to an all-out tug of war. So if you want gear-jamming, car-crushing, down and dirty action, get your credit card ready to order your video now. Call 1-800-351-1500. Blood, sweat, and gears.
Excuse me, are you the Milton Pitts?
You found him?
Terrific. You're called Washington's official barber because you shave everyone from senators to cabinet members.
Just take a look at that wall, son.
Milton, what do you shave these powerful men with, huh?
A Bic shaver.
Bic? Not your barber's razor?
That's history. Bic is the best darn shaver I've ever used.
Okay, now who's that getting shaved with Bic?
Just look for the best shaved senator on the next debate.
The Bic shaver. If it's good enough for Milton, it's good enough for you.
Teammates Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost continue battling for the World Driving Championship. An international field accepts the challenge of the Grand Prix of Hungary Sunday morning at 8:20 Eastern, live on ESPN.
It's the U.S. Hot Rod Association Mud Bog Racing, brought to you in part by Four Wheeler Magazine. Pick up your copy today. Margot King coming up now. One of your favorites, that yellow pickup we see back there on the right-hand side. It's called Big Bird.
We're all into after-school programming here, and this truck is driven by Chuck Sylvester out of Rochester, Massachusetts, and it's a Big Bird. This baby clocks in at 4,000 pounds. Another reason why they put this engine a little more midway in between the front and rear axle to hope you could get some better drive.
It's one of the few they claim it's a mid-engine pickup, and that's true. One of the few in competition today. Better weight distribution. The sponsors, Snap-on Tools, Sparky's Auto World, and Scott Brothers. Big Bird out of Rochester, Massachusetts. Chuck Sylvester, 42 years old, doing the driving.
And that mid-engine is a 429 Super Cobra jet, putting out 450 horsepower.
Weighing 2 tons, launching off the line, getting sideways, and that does it for Big Bird.
Uh-oh.
Not that far through the traps, through the mud run here at the Centrum. Look at that gooey, sticky mud.
Ick.
Awfully deep. But a 2-ton machine, 4,000 pounds, you've got to have an awful lot of motor to stay up on top of the mud. And, Margot, that's the key. You've got to stay up on top.
He was down on horsepower, and even with his strategy with the positioning of that motor just wasn't enough to combat this bit.
Let's take a look back in slow motion of Big Bird. 66 feet and 5 inches for the Bird. And that's as far as he goes. I don't want to say that's deep mud, but I think I just saw a German soldier stick his head up there. I'm not really sure. So there goes the Big Bird back to the quarter car wash to get the mud taken off. And coming up now, this is Moonlighting out of Newton, New Hampshire. It's Bill Bartlett's machine. It's a 70 Ford Bronco. You Bronco fans out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of you are going to cheer for this. A WD&G with a D&G chassis, a 351 Ford engine, 800 horsepower. This guy is a landscaper. And as our producer, Steve Cannon, said, he wants to play in the dirt during the week and come out and play in the mud on the weekend.
It's like he makes a living in the mud day and night.
The time to beat, 2.24 seconds of night flight in the first round. Bill Bartlett, Moonlighting out of Newton, New Hampshire. Ford Bronco, beautiful machine, very clean. Nothing superfluous on it at all. He gets a start, stays up on top of the mud as he's got to do it. He goes right through it. Don't know if it's quite as fast as night flight, but a good, clean run, Margot.
And this is a good time to take a look at that roll cage. All of the open-top vehicles must be equipped with a 6-point roll cage, and all of the other ones a 4-point roll cage, mounted securely to that frame.
Take a look back at it. Again, he's got to be 2.24 seconds, and he gets a 2.51 seconds. Not quite fast enough, and a very sanitary Ford Bronco. Moonlighting. Comes down off that jump. Okay, this is risky business. This is not Tom Cruise driving.
But it's Greg Haskin out of Wattsfield, Vermont.
Yep.
He works with the telephone company, and tonight he's driving a 1987 Chevy CJ5, a Chevy big block with a 427, putting out 450 horsepower. And he opts to wear a neck brace, although that is one piece of safety equipment that isn't required, although those seatbelt harnesses are.
Okay, risky business. A 87 CJ5 powered by a big block 427 Chevy engine. Cut tires. Spent a lot of time cutting those tires.
About 20 hours per tires and a lot of rubber removal.
There we go. Good launch. Biting the wheel, gets through all. Yeah, he makes it all the way through. It's a full run. A full run for risky business, but not a real fast time. He was having problems with the steering wheel there, spinning it and trying to work it and keep it in line.
Looked like he was taking the long way around.
Yeah, he did. Risky business. Greg Haskin. Let's look back in slow motion. 3.22 seconds for risky business. Gets a little sideways there, Margot, and he's fighting the wheel.
Well, that short wheelbase, he's going to have a little more difficulty keeping that vehicle tracking straight through that pit.
Yeah, extremely short wheelbase machine. So Haskin gets a word, 3.22, not too good. Here is an interesting machine. This is called Grounds for Divorce. It's Steve Balthazard of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and his wife. The story on this truck is interesting. His wife got so upset with him for spending every night and all that money on the truck. She says, that truck is grounds for divorce.
But they did survive the marriage, right?
Okay. She's sitting in the stands right now watching him. Steve Balthazard of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. An 87 Ford Ranger, a 429 Ford engine, alcohol nitrous, and look at this guy launch. Sideways. Through the traps. He's got to be 2.24 seconds. And let's see what he does. Let's take a look back. It was a good run.
Excellent run.
Certainly a sub 3-second run for grounds for divorce. This guy is experienced. He knows what he's doing. Look back in slow motion. Good launch. 2.72 seconds for grounds for divorce. Not quite fast enough.
That could be grounds for reconciliation, though.
Notice the suspension going way up above the wheel and dropping back down. Grounds for divorce. Pulls off the track. 2.72 seconds, and we go now to Mad Jack's Express.
And this one is a little unusual because it looks pretty much stock. Jack, and I can't say his last name, Larry. You're gonna
Onessimo.
have to...
Steve Onessimo of Raymond, New Hampshire.
He's a construction worker, and looks like he could even drive this vehicle to work. It's a Chevy Blazer with a Chevy Big Block, 463 horsepower, but will he be able to get through the mud on a fairly stock vehicle?
He says the small blocks blow out too easy. That's why he wants this, and I don't think he's going to get very far. Nope, not too far for Onessimo. Raymond, New Hampshire.
Disappointing run, but I don't think that'll keep him from trying next week.
So Mad Jack's Express gets derailed here in the mud at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. Larry Huffman and Margot Kane calling the action. Let's look back at him. Just not quite enough horsepower, looks like. 50 feet, 10 inches, Margot.
Just didn't have a launch, just basically like pulling into a parking place, and you just got to have a little more spunk off the launching pad.
That is how stuck he is right there, and they're going to pull him back out. Steve Onessimo of Raymond, New Hampshire. Gets out, and we're set to go on to the next machine. The mud is getting deep, and it is already very, very sticky. And coming up next, an interesting machine. It's a Jeep CJ7 next up on the lineup. It's driven by Preston Ward. It's called the Execution, but the interesting thing about this machine, it is powered by an ex-Mark Donahue engine. The American Motors Javelin, the Trans Am series from the early 70s, that's the motor out of one of Donahue's Javelins that's in this CJ7. It's limited horsepower, down on horsepower, lack of aftermarket parts keeps him slow. And he launches off the line, gets through it, and makes it all the way through. It took him a month just to get a rod for this engine. The engine is almost 20 years old, and it's one of his last runs. They're going to put a Ford 460 engine in. Let's take a look back. He makes it through. We'll see what he does. 3:06 seconds. Got a lot of horsepower, but just a little bit too heavy.
Another interesting thing, Preston Ward's the driver, but the owner is Matt Ward. But he's only 15 years old, and the rules say you've got to be 18, so he's a spectator for just a few more years.
Well, coming up, ladies and gentlemen, the final round of cut class mud bog competition. Going to be wild as boggers get stuck in the mud. Don't go away.
Wrangler Stonewash jeans sure look great, no matter what you're doing. In fact, they even look good enough to wear with a nice silk blouse or a brand new tie. But you know what's so great about having Wrangler jeans on sale at Kmart? At $15 a pair, you can still afford to treat them like jeans. Wrangler Stonewash jeans, on sale through Saturday at Kmart.
Opportunity can't knock unless it's on your doorstep. Subscribe to the Wall Street Journal.
Call 800-228-1900 for this great journal subscription offer. 13 weeks for just $29.75 with a money-back guarantee. 13 weeks, $29.75. Phone 800-228-1900 now for the Wall Street Journal.
Brought to you in part by Dick Seepeck Tires. You can't win without them. This is the U.S. Hot Rod Mud Bog Drag Racing Championships and Battle of the Monster Trucks. And coming up now, this is Littlefoot, Tim Cronover of Parsippany, New Jersey. It's a big 79 Ford F-150 pickup, but not powered by a Ford. It's powered by a 468 Chevy, 700 horsepower, naturally aspirated. Does not use injection or nitrous oxide. And he says he went through too many Ford engines, so he thought he'd try a cheaper Chevy. There's the launch. Into the mud, and he's having problems early, Marco King. He just can't make it through.
And in his process, he has pushed up a ledge of mud that now the other drivers are going to have to contend with.
That's right. He put up a wall of mud in front of him, and there's no way he can get through it. So Littlefoot is stopped in the mud. Let's take a look back in slow motion. Again, did not seem to have the power coming off the line. 57 feet, 5 inches for Littlefoot.
A good shot there of the green flag that the drivers must see before they launch off the starting pad.
And that's it for Littlefoot, 57 feet, 5 inches. And he's made it harder for those other trucks by making a mound of mud, a wall of mud, as it were, around the 60-foot mark. There's a fan that came prepared. These trucks, these mud boggers, put out an awful lot of noise. And it's a good idea to protect your hearing.
Adult and child alike.
That's right. This is Hyperactive. Margot?
This one's driven by Pete Anderson out of Denville, New Jersey. He's a siding contractor who, on the weekends, likes to drive a mud racing vehicle, which is a 1974 Chevy Love truck.
The time to beat, 2.24 seconds by Black Bar. You don't see many Love trucks in this competition.
And he's going to have to be hyperactive to get over that wall of mud.
He's got to, let's see what he can do with Littlefoot. He put up a wall of mud. Let's see if this Hyperactive machine can get over that wall of mud. There's the start. Gets off the line, he's going sideways, dropping down in the groove, and there's where it stops, right around that 60-foot mark, maybe. He's still going. Just a few inches more, and that's it. He shuts it down. He's upset too, Margot.
And unfortunately, luck of the draw comes into play here. The higher number you draw, the more risk you become at falling victim of the track.
Yep.
The tracks that the prior trucks running have put into the pit.
That's right. It gets deeper and deeper. Here's Hyperactive. 63 feet for Hyperactive. Again, he's trying to stay on top and starts to sink down in, and that is it for the four-wheel drive Hyperactive. And not very far, 63 feet, didn't make it through. And there's the mud. Takes about $30 in quarters at a quarter car wash to clean these afterwards. Seriously, it takes about that long to get all the mud off these machines. This is Gunsmoke, Rich Marcin. It's an 87 custom Jeep funny car, 439 Chevy engine. He is using high-octane aviation gasoline with synthetic additives. He says, I won't run alcohol. The front tires are not cut, so they won't dig in. All four wheels, carbon fiber. Here's the start. The front wheels trying to stay up, and he's going.
And it looks like his strategy worked. Those uncut wheels just seem to float across the top of the mud pit.
They planed across the top of the mud. So Gunsmoke, a smart move, did not cut the front tires. He's happy. He says, I don't know what kind of time I got, but I made it through. Let's take another look back in slow motion. Now he gets off the line. Front wheels up in the air, 3.57 seconds for a full run, but right about the 60-foot mark, Margot, he slows.
You can see him, just the front end just tips ever so slightly in, which could have hurt his time.
Yep, it did hurt his time. 3.57 seconds, nothing near the 2.24 seconds of Black Bart. Might point out, might point out, Margot, that the drivers draw for their starting position. They actually draw cards to determine where they're going to start.
He's getting slowly pulled out of that pit. You can see they've got the payloader anchored there, and another dozer actually pulling a cable that just pulls him backwards.
Yep, we got the best crew in the business here, the U.S. Hot Rod Association. Our people are professional, they know what they're doing, and they get it done fast. You've got to keep the shows moving, and they're right on the vehicle as soon as it stops, hooking it up and pulling it back out again. This is an interesting machine, Margot. One of my favorites. I got to say that. I'm an old Corvette man anyway. Look at this.
And it's the Walk-In Express. And I bet you never would guess that he named this truck after one of his major sponsors. It's driven by George Bassett out of Falmouth, Maine. He's retired, so he can put a lot of time into his machine, and it really does show.
Sponsored by the Walk-In Express. The only problem with this thing, about an hour after he runs, he wants to go back and run again. George Bassett, the Walk-In Express 81 Corvette. Big block Chevy engine. This is a funny car. Let's see what he does. This has got the horsepower, Margot, going to go all the way through and blast the record. Let's see what he can do.
Now, he does have nitrous, but he says he doesn't hit the nitrous injection until he's about 5 foot into the run. If he does it earlier, he can flood the engine, which would carbonize the plugs and maybe cause a misfire.
So about 5 feet into the run, look out! There he goes. He launches it, lights up, and gets through fighting the wheel, goes all the way through. The Walk-In Express goes for it. A complete run for the Falmouth, Maine driver, the Walk-In Express, George Bassett. Good, fast run. TJ Towing, one of his sponsors. Let's take a look back in slow motion. See if we can see where that nitrous oxide kicks in. Right there. Right there. The ground shakes, and he gets off and starts going a little sideways.
Obviously, no misfires in that run.
Let's see the clocking. 2.57 seconds for the Walk-In Express. 2.57 seconds. Coming up next, this is the last cut vehicle of the night. Mud Mania, Doug Burlingame. It's a Jeep CJ7, a street machine. He's got a 500 horsepower 350 Chevy engine. His wife has told him it's too much money, but he says, I want to have fun. This is what I do for fun, and so he's driving his street machine in the mud bog here tonight at Worcester. Again, the time he's got to beat 2.24 seconds. I don't think he's going to have too much of a chance. A very heavy machine, 500 horsepower. Drives it on the street, gets through, and that's it. He's digging all the way to China.
Again, another driver that really doesn't have a sophisticated high-performance machine, and he really fell victim to those tracks that are already dug into that pit.
You gotta understand that this is rapidly becoming a sophisticated sport. You've got to have the cutting edge of technology, the engines, the big block engines, the nitrous oxide to be competitive. Mud Mania looking back in slow motion. Let's see what he does. 72 feet 7 inches. Not good enough.
But a good run for a stock machine.
Yep, it is basically a street machine. He drives it during the week. Puts the headlights back in and goes for it. So Black Bart wins it with 2.24 seconds. Night Flight second with 2:44. Coming up next, the over 44-inch tractor tire mud class with the option is to go through the mud instead of over it. Don't go away.
This portion brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
Hey, pal, this is where we start.
This Bud's for all that you do.
This is where we start. Papers say you busted it up pretty good. Too fancy for you, huh?
You got a long road back. You miss the cheers.
One more.
Can you beat those doubts and fears?
Ready? Not today. Don't you mean never?
Make America work.
For that something that won't let us quit. The clean, crisp taste of Beechwood aged Budweiser.
To your first game back. Thanks, buddy.
This Bud's for you.
This is where champions begin.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Mike Tyson, Terrence Ali, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Superstars who forge steel nerves and iron punches on Budweiser's top-ranked boxing.
it's a junior welterweight clash when knockout specialist John Meekins takes on Muhammad Kawoya. Friday night at 9 Eastern, live on ESPN.
Hello again, Gary Lee, live from Indianapolis Raceway Park. We join you live at 10 o'clock Eastern Time for the USAC Midgets, racing from last weekend, including IMSA and the NHRA. Jeff Brabham and John Morton rode their twin Nissans to a 1-2 finish Sunday in the G.I. Joe's Grand Prix of Portland, extending Jeff's record-setting IMSA GTP win streak to 7 in a row. Brabham led the 97-lap event from start to finish at a record pace of over 109 miles per hour. Morton found it slightly harder going, moving up from 4th to 2nd at the halfway point. The Jag of Martin Brundle and John Nielsen finished 3rd, with the Jag of Davy Jones and Jan Lammers able to hang on to 4th despite this off-road excursion. Bryce Cobb and James Weaver had the best Porsche finish of the day with a 5th place. Brabham also won the Norelco Drivers' Cup for his outstanding performance in the race, and in addition, his Electromotive team won the pit stop competition held earlier. The Camel Lights division was won by the Pontiac Firebird of Charles Morgan, his 2nd win of the year. Team finishes of 1-2 were not limited to the GTP division. Pete Halsmer and Scott Pruitt topped the list in the GTO race in a pair of Mercury Mercours, and Max Jones and Tom Kendall finished 1-2 in the GTU series in their Chevy Berettas. The NHRA's inaugural Motorcraft Ford California National saw 3 tightly contested final rounds. In Pro Stock, Harry Scribner made it to his first ever final round, pitted against Don Beverly, who hadn't even qualified in the last 22 Winston Drag events. Harry, in his bright yellow Camaro, beat Don with an ET of 7.498, setting off the long-awaited celebration in Harry's pit. Funny Cars saw Don the Snake Prudhomme going for his 3rd win in a row up against Mark Oswald. Oswald defeated the Snake back in July in the Grand National Molson in Montreal, and it looked like the Snake would do it again until Oswald got him at the finish line with a 5.517 ET to Don's 5.523. In the Top Fuel Finals, Joe Amato, in his 6th Winston Series final of the season, found Dick LaHaye, the defending champion, in the next lane. Earlier this season, LaHaye beat Amato in the finals of the Winter Nationals, and they had a tight race going again until Dick got out of shape